Hi everybody, it's Lou Manfredini, Ace's home expert. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about choosing the right sandpaper for a project you may be working on, and specifically we'll be talking about sanding sponges, which are a super versatile tool to use for a bunch of different projects. But let's start with regular sandpaper. You'll find a pretty good selection at your local Ace hardware store and all different kinds of grits. This is a 60 grit paper right here that allows you to use it for a varied number of projects. And you can actually use this paper on power sanding tools as well. You can cut it with a utility knife or even a good pair of scissors to be used in different applications. Coarse grit sandpaper has a lower number. 60 grit is a coarse paper. There's even grit that's more coarse than that, but for the most part, you're going to be using 60 grit when you're talking about a coarse sandpaper. And that would be for jobs where you're really trying to, say, remove paint, or you've got super rough surfaces, maybe on a deck, or if you were refinishing some furniture and you really wanted to kind of cut down some high graining or maybe even some splinters that may have occurred. That's when you would use a coarse paper. This is a coarse sanding block right here, a sponge right here by 3M, and that's really nice because you get that strong grip, but with a sponge you can work around corners. It's great for use on spindles, and again, the lower the number, the coarser the sandpaper. Then you get into these combinations here that you'll find at your local Ace. This is a coarse medium sanding sponge, meaning that one side is coarse, the other side is medium. So depending on the project that you're doing, you kind of get the best of both worlds. And many times these sponges have a finished edge on it as well here. So if you've got to do a little detail work there and you don't have to use the whole face of the sponge, you've got coarse on one side and the medium on the other. Then you get into fine, and that typically is 100 grit or higher. Remember, low numbers mean coarse and the higher numbers more fine finish. The 100 grit or the fine characteristics is good for finishing off furniture projects, trying to get something nice and smooth. But then when it goes to really finishing it off, you're going to get into those 180 grit or even 220 grit that almost feels like there's nothing on it. But with a sanding sponge like that, you can get that glass finish. And when you're doing any kind of furniture refinishing or really trying to get something super smooth, you're going to be choosing sandpaper and sanding sponges that has a grit of over 180. And then finally, if you're doing big projects, your local Ace many times has cases of these sanding sponges. So maybe you're helping out on a volunteer project or you have a bunch of people working on the job. Talk to your sales associate in the store about getting a case of sanding sponges so you can sand until the cows come home. If you need more information or advice, just go to your local Ace hardware store because we're there to help. Ace is the helpful place.